Well, yes. So, hello,
Big
good
sigh.
evening. We say good evening, but it may be another time of day wherever you are. So, good, whatever. Um, Delighted that you're joining us this evening. Thursday Garden Chat, which is the weekly public service broadcast of Garden Masterclass. And these recordings go to our YouTube channel, and in some cases to our podcast channel, which is a innovation over the last couple of months. Our normal business is live workshops during the warmer months and webinars during the cooler months. And just a little reminder about what's coming up in the next really over the next month or so. Um, our last webinar before Christmas is on the 10th of December with Matt Pottage. Life after Leylandii, making
Mm.
conifers socially acceptable again. Um,
Oh, you've got to if you don't like conifers, you've got to tune in. Matt is so funny and he's so witty and he
yes.
loves conifers.
And then we take a break for Christmas. After Christmas, our first event is the 8th of January with Neil Lucas. We're going to be doing an update on ornamental grasses with the man who's probably done more to promote them in Britain than anyone else.
Indeed.
And we'll also be restarting in January the third iteration of Bad Botany with Caroline Jackson, which is a wonderful introduction to botany. We've run it for 2 years now, and this third season will be looking at, well, I haven't quite decided quite which families yet, but Caroline is working on this, and anyone who signs up new for this will get access to the previous presentations. So if you're not familiar with us, do keep an eye on our website and our diary pages, where we've got a lot of really quite serious content coming up
Mhm.
in the new year, particularly for garden designers, landscape architects. We've got a couple of courses, construction detailing, visualization, very useful hands-on stuff.
Mm, mm.
So now, I mentioned our Substack site for podcasts. We're getting quite a nice collection of podcasts there. And this, over the next week, we're going to be starting an innovation, which is a separate Substack podcast site for members. Because we have membership, and membership entitles you to various discounts and various goodies. But this will be a special thing, which will be for members only. We're starting off with a short series with a Serbic retired ecologist, Ken Thompson, who's going to be garden myth busting in collaboration with Claire Greenslade, who's our tame head gardener from Somerset. And in the new year, Caroline Jackson and I will be doing a serious information heavy, serious but not too serious look at garden shrubs, which would be a nice way to learn about plants whilst doing something else like weeding or planting or driving or whatever. So trying to make the most of the podcast as a medium. Anyway, do look at our website, keep in touch with those diary pages. If you are new to us, want to keep in touch, then do please sign up for the monthly newsletter. And in fact, a newsletter will be going out this coming weekend, which will be of particular interest to members. We'll be talking about
Mm.
all the new things we're going to be doing for Garden Masterclass members.
Oh, what's Mark saying? Will you reach out to members? What's your question, Mark? Will you reach out to members when the new series goes live?
We will do, yes. We're going to be we'll do a members newsletter
Mm.
after that, just flagging up all the changes we're going to be instituting and all the new material we'll be putting out. So
Yeah.
I think Annie, over.
Yeah, and we should also mention next week's Thursday Garden Chat, which will be the last one before Christmas, oddly enough. I mean, it seems weird to say that, but and it's with Claire Foster and Andrew Montgomery, and their new book called Pastoral. And I looked through it today, and oh my days, what a beautiful book. It is just drop dead gorgeous. I mean, Andrew's photographs are always beautiful, but it's got a really interesting range of not so well known gardens, private gardens. But I mean, do put that in your diary. So that's next Thursday. But they're going to be talking about it. It's absolutely beautiful. Their winter book that they did a couple of years ago, we had them on talking about it, and it was equally lovely. In fact, most of it was in black and white, I seem to remember, but this is really, really sumptuous, you can imagine. So do put that note in your diary. Right, so yes, tonight Sue Townsend is going to start off with our what we call Spotlight on Designers. So I've had this sort of idea for a while that every now and again we will focus on a designer and sort of find out a bit more about them and chat to them and have a look at their work. And I've had Sue, poor Sue, she knows I've targeted her for quite a while. Anyway, Sue, hello. It's lovely to
Hello.
have you on.
Oh, thanks for having me, Annie and Noel.
It's a pleasure. And
Yeah.
and I know you've been swimming this morning because you are a daily sea swimmer, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
no, I am.
mad,
I
utterly
know,
mad, without the aid of a wetsuit.
that's right. Yes, so, we're really lucky because we live really close to the sea and swim there every day. Throughout the year, whatever the weather, whatever the wave, and I really love it.
Yeah.
It's the most invigorating
Do
thing.
you go really, really early in the morning?
Oh yeah, we do actually. We sort of get down there for sunrise, so
Wow.
um, meet up on the beach and have a big hug with some gorgeous friends of ours who's from
Oh,
Suffolk.
nice. Yeah.
And then we get into the sea, and you might have like flamingo coloured skies, or you can
Wow.
really steely blue.
Yeah.
And you know, there's times if you get in there, you might have a geese flyover, so the
Oh,
swoop
gorgeous.
over your head, or you could have I don't know, a seal to just pop up and say hello.
Seriously.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
wow. Wow. So
So
that really sets you up for the day and gets
yeah,
you,
it
wakes you
does.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's not just the sea though, because it's also that how we get to the sea, because we have to sort of drive or ride in the summer across the Westleton Heath.
Hmm.
In the summer, if you can just imagine, it's like purple everywhere. So you've got all the heathland, you've got the heather
Yeah.
out there, you've got this punctuated with these beautiful white stems of silver birch,
Mm.
and the smell of the gorse. It's just a really
Oh,
fantastic way
so
to,
it's a sort of multi-sensory experience.
yeah, and so you
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
connected with your landscape, and you get
Yeah.
work and
So that sort of leads us into where you are in the country,
yeah.
because there's a few people here who are not in the country, and so they want to know where you are. So yeah, can you just explain exactly geographically where you're located?
Yes, so I live in Westleton, which is a very small village in Suffolk in East Anglia. So we're the furthest part north, past furthest point east in the country.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so Lowestoft is the furthest point east, and we're only about 20 minutes from there.
Yeah, yeah,
And we're 2 miles inland from the sea, and not far from the lovely seaside towns like Walberswick, Dunwich, Southwold, Aldborough.
yeah.
And then
So,
yeah, so
no, so people who've been to Beth Chatto's, you're a good hour and a bit beyond that.
yeah, yes,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
further north, and we've got like Beth, we're in East Anglia, we've got the lowest rainfall in the country. So we get less than 600
Meters.
millimeters a year.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
But I'd say that we're a bit more extreme than Beth Chatto's, because we've got the salt-laden winds, and also
Right, right.
we've also got like sandy soil. So
Yeah. Wow.
so it's quite extreme,
Quite
and
a combo. Quite a combo.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that really has an impact in the types of plants that I grow, really, in the garden
Mm.
I work on.
Mm, mm. So,
So
so
yeah.
before we get into your garden design work, you know, you've not always been a garden designer. So can you just tell us a bit about your life before garden design?
Yeah, well, like many garden designers, I'm sure sitting out there, I come from a completely different background to garden design. I did my degree in European politics, economics, law, French, and Spanish, and that meant that I had a really great time on having a year abroad in France and Spain, and then I went traveling around South America. and I saw some fantastic landscapes. I was in the jungle, I was up in the Andes, on the Altiplano. It was just incredible. I mean, just really amazing. But obviously, we all have to get down to work. So I came, a bit depressingly. So I came back to the UK, and I knew that I wanted to work in Brussels because that was my background, my degree. So I became a European lobbyist, and I worked in London, and then I worked in Brussels. And it was fantastic because I was using my languages. I was working, Europe was a really exciting place at the time. And then I sort of decided that I wanted to use my lobbying skills on a different cause. So I returned to the UK and I worked on international development.
Right, right.
And so I think one of the proudest moments of that stage of my life was that I was part of a team that took the UK government to court over a funding of a dam in Malaysia called the Pergau Dam.
Right.
And we proved in the High Court that the UK government had misused £234 million worth of money.
Wow.
Hell of a lot of money. So we won that money back into the aid budget.
Wow.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Oh, good for you.
I know. It was just
What an achievement. And so what then, what made you head off towards the gardens and the landscape? What was it that, you know?
Yeah. Well, I was sort of really toying with, you know, I knew there's something was missing in my life at that time. And I think it was really creativity. And I, at that stage, I'd always made my own clothes when I was a kid, from the age of 10, making my first summer dress. And then when I made my own wedding dress.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and all from scratch, no pattern, had to do it myself. And my grandparents had given me, you know, the fabric, and it was wonderful. But I hadn't done art, and so I thought, oh God, it's a bit pipe dream going into fashion. And we just bought our own home, and I was looking at outside the house and thinking, my God, you know, we've got this patch of land here, and it was just derelict. And we were in Stoke Newington. I thought, well, what are we going to do with that? So I don't know if you remember, it was early, like in the 90s, a long time ago. And the likes of Andy Sturgeon was on telly, Dermot Gavin. There were whole loads of people coming out. It was all getting very exciting in garden design. And there was a magazine called The New Eden. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so I sort of suddenly got this passion. I wanted to know as much as I could about plants and design how to lay out this garden. And so I signed up for a course at Capel Manor in North London.
Another fellow Capel Manor person.
Oh, did you go there?
Yeah, but a long time before you, Sue.
Really? A long time anyway. I've been in it for a while.
Yeah, no, I did. I started off at Capel. Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, so I was there. I did 3 years of course. So I did the part-time courses. I had a 6-month-old and I had a toddler. So I was working part-time, 6-month-old toddler, and then doing 3 years of courses in foundation in garden design, and then I did the hard landscaping, which is thoroughly recommend anyone doing that because it's know how to build gardens. And I don't know if you did this, but I was really determined to get as much experience as I could. So I offered my services as a labourer and a planter to a couple of garden designers up here up there in Stoke Newington. And it was really hard work. You know, there's one garden I was working on. I had to, it was obviously London is clay, and I had to dig out a whole load of heavy clay, bar it up to skips, and then just at the end of the day, I was completely and utterly shattered. I'd sort of have to go back and breastfeed my baby, and then start the next day studying or working, whatever I was doing. So so I sort of did that whole work experience, then finished the courses and started up my business in 2001 in working on residential gardens.
Right, but you were still in London at that point, were you?
I was still in London, but and also I was really quite lucky because I had the opportunity of getting the job as the Blue Peter gardener. So it was an off-screen role, but I had to come up with ideas for the show. Then I also had to, they suddenly turned around and said, well, would you like to redesign the garden? And I'd only just got out of college, and I was thinking, blinking heck, you're letting me redesign the most iconic garden on telly. So what do you think I did? I just went home. I got
Yeah.
out the plasticine, as you
Yeah.
do. You watch
Yeah.
Blue Peter, and everything's made of plasticine. And I made a little model. I took it in,
Brilliant.
and they started filming the show. So then I had to sort of be on telly for a couple of episodes, and yeah. So that's when I was doing that as I was. The garden actually, unfortunately, was never made because they decided they're going to up sticks and go up to Manchester.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what a great kind of experience, a bit of a baptism of fire, and
Yeah.
that you said you'd do it. That's great.
No, it's good. And then we decided we were going to come up to live in Suffolk anyway, because we wanted to bring up our girls next to, it's surrounded by nature and near the sea.
Mm,
So we came up here, and then I had to make a name for myself up here.
yeah.
And so the way that I did that was really by building our own garden.
Right.
And that meant that I sort of got in contact with landscapers and sort of sussed out the nurseries I'd need to really be working with.
Yeah.
And then I also decided that I need to set myself aside, apart from other designers in the area, because other people were well known. Nobody
Yeah. Yeah.
knew me.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'm going to become a member of the Society of Garden Designers and also of Barley. So I, had to submit all my work, and I did that. So
Great.
that's how I
And
got.
was creating your own garden about trying to understanding the local climate and sort of, was it becoming would it become a showcase as well for your work? Or was it you kind of getting to grips with this new environment that you were in?
Yes, it was very much like that. I mean, I was used to gardening on clay in London, and so I
Yeah.
came up here, and it was just complete sandy soil. So it was, I just had to. I just thought I need to sort of get to grips with my own landscape, and what better way of doing it than to build your own garden?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Fantastic. And I mean, we've got these lovely rolling pictures that are happening at the moment, taken by Marianne and by Richard Bloom, and just showing how gorgeous your work is. So how big is your own home garden then? What's the sort of footprint of that? Is it?
well, it's quite big.
Please.
It's not an average garden. We've got 11 acres.
Right.
And the garden was originally designed by my wonderful late father-in-law, Amadei
Oh,
Turner.
yeah.
And it's a garden of the mind. It really is. We've got some eccentric things in there. So,
Oh, lovely.
I mean, you must come one day.
Yeah, no, I will definitely.
Yeah, it's got we've got the replica of the first Stonehenge in our garden. It's not made out of stone, it's made out of the lift doors of the former ICI HQ that used to be.
Oh, wow.
So there's some really wacky things here.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, yeah. So your work, I mean, your work, well, locating a new home, new garden, or got new to you anyway. And now you've really started to build your name on gardens, drought tolerant gardens and gardens of that, in that sort of area or those sort of conditions. So how has your work developed? I mean, how many years have you been up in Suffolk now?
Well, we've been up here for 20 years now.
Oh, wow. So quite a while. So
yeah.
can you see how you've developed and changed during that period of time in terms of your work and your planting palette and all of that? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, as I mentioned, we've got we've got the lowest rainfall, salt laden winds, and sandy soil in the strip where I actually live. So excuse me. So all of my my plant palette has to be predominantly Mediterranean, and those that can survive in sort of seaside conditions. But I have been also, thanks to the help of the likes and lovely books I've got here of James Hitchmo and Nigel Dunnett, I've been exploring different types of meadows, because a lot of my clients up here, not all, but a lot of them are living in the seaside towns. They're then up here for the summer, and by the time you have they arrive in say July or something, the majority of the meadows is just going over. So if you have a meadow that is going into that has a longer shelf life, as it were, and has perennials that are going to last longer and also feed the pollinators for longer, then in my book, that's a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at that. But the other thing that's really, I think the really major thing that's happened to me whilst I've been up here, because we're in such an extreme conditions, is that I've been looking at climate change.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when we had the drought of 2022, I was cycling to the beach from a swim, and every morning I found it really shocking to see all this wonderful heather just dying in front of me.
Wow.
And it was really depressing. And we lost 50%, no, 60% of the heather on our heath,
Wow.
which is a hell of a lot of habitat. So I just sort of looked at our garden as well, and we had lost masses and masses of trees in that Pat had we call them Pat as well as Amadei. Pat had planted quite a lot of conifers. In my front garden, which I'd planted all with drought tolerant planting anyway, there were a few plants like Calamagrostis brachytricha that had sort of just couldn't take the dryness of the soil, and I only use that now on really you know, free draining but retentive soils. So I sort of took out all the plants that were not going to last long term. And then but there were, like, you know, some real survivors like Bupleurum fruticosum, Pavoschia, Gaura. All of those plants were doing really brilliantly, and I sort of vowed that I was going to learn more about the types of ways of gardening in these conditions. And that's where you come in, Annie. You and no, I mean, I must say it's been really brilliant, because you guys have given me the opportunity to learn so much. I mean, and I'm really, really grateful, because you know, I came with you to south of France.
You did, yes, you did, and Sardinia this year.
Yes, so we've seen some really amazing landscapes. And learnt from, you know, the likes of Olivier Philippe on gardening in really dry conditions, and James Hitchmo and
Marco, lovely Marco,
on his beautiful work at Borgogliante.
And so who else do you sort of look to for inspiration? Who are your sort of key, or are there certain gardens that you gravitate to? So where do you do your sort of research, apart from Garden Masterclass, of course?
Well, yeah. But I mean, the fact is that, Annie, but a lot of these did come from you as well. They're not gardens, but you know, it's, you know, the prompt is from, oh, there's a wonderful event happening. Oh, shall we just go and have a look at the Delos garden at Sissinghurst, for example? So I went down and saw Dan Pearson and what he'd done there. And who had actually consulted Olivier Philippe in south of France. And then there's people like Peter Kern in Sweden. And so I've been really listening to how he gardens, and using like 200 millimeters of gritty sharp sand, and planting bare roots. There's a quite long list. There's
well, of course, John Little's just down the road from you, really,
exactly.
Isn't he?
John Little and his habitat creation. So I've been doing stuff with that too. Then Tom Stewart Smith, and the, you know, we're just so lucky, aren't we, to have that as
we are
plant library. So so Beth Chatto, obviously, the symposiums.
And so your clients, I mean, are your clients sort of asking you for, you know, how sort of informed are they? Are they looking, do they come and see your garden? I mean, do you use it as a bit of a showcase or not?
Yes, I do actually. I mean, I've been doing lots of stuff. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I mean, my gardens, the clients I have, they probably don't come to me because of the drought tolerance stuff. Because I probably don't make enough of it on my website or promotional things. But they come to me because I'm in the area, because I'm going to know what's going to grow. And so it's really a case of me educating the garden, my clients, as to what's going to work, what's not going to work, and steering them away from the sort of, you know, more moisture loving plants, and trying to sort of get the feel of what they're after if it is a typical English country garden, but using plants that are going to survive long term.
And I mean, interesting actually, on the back of the webinar we had last night with James Hitchmo about, you know, design versus management, you know, how many of your clients have gardeners, or are you educating them to look after their own gardens? Is it, you know, how does that work, or does it vary greatly?
It varies quite a lot, really. I mean, I've got some clients who are real plants people, and really and that might be why they've come to me as well. So
Yeah.
some people are really hands-on,
Yeah.
and other people aren't, and it's literally, we're going to be up these weekends, or
Yeah.
I just need someone to look after it. So there's some really great teams that I can put their way. It is hard to find gardeners, but I try and put any sort of good horticultural people in contact with potential clients or clients.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
something.
no, I mean that is one of the big issues, isn't it? It's sort of, first question really is who's looking after the garden, isn't it?
Yes, no,
when
absolutely.
Yeah. So the majority of your clients are within your area, or do you dip back into London, or do you just stay up in Suffolk now, or you?
Well, I mean, Suffolk is really big.
Yeah.
It's enormous. If you look at
Yeah.
our map, it's really big.
Yeah.
So, but I do, I design throughout Suffolk, and further afield. I do dip into London occasionally, but not recently.
Yeah.
I think there are plenty of really good designers down in London, and if I have my area of expertise, it's good to know the landscape, and so I think that's what I can offer. So yes,
Definitely.
I design all different types of gardens to appeal for lots of different tastes.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So now you're sort of well into this, career up in Suffolk. Where do you see yourself moving and going? Where do you see your work, and how do you see it developing? I mean, you talked about being, very focused on climate change, but what do you sort of see for the future, the near future, and
Yeah. Well, I think what I've been doing more recently in the last few years is thinking more about the biodiversity and climate change, as I've sort of mentioned already. And so I've been including more and more ponds into clients' gardens, and that's just so nice to sort of have the see what an impact it has on wildlife, how much it brings into the garden, and see the connection that the clients have with nature, and that's really beautiful. And I've been, but what's really exciting for me at the moment is that in the last year we've been doing some work in our own garden. Up until about a year ago, if we planted anything in the main garden, it was eaten by monkjack or bunnies, and so
Oh God, yeah.
so depressing.
Yeah.
And so we took the plunge last year, and we actually have rabbit proofed and monkjack proofed about 6 acres of.
Wow. Gosh, that's no mean feat either, is it?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
And
it's not.
expensive too. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But what that's done is it's meant that we've got the opportunity of doing a number of projects which I really want to use my case studies, or so that I can show clients how things could be. So there are five projects that we've got underway. There's like habitat creation. We've made a natural swimming pond. Used all the crushed concrete and sand that came out from the original canal that was there,
Yeah.
swimming pond, to make a crushed concrete and sand experimental garden. And then I've done a gravel garden further up the garden, and then finally I've been planting trees for the future.
Right.
So that's what I've been doing, but it's been a real learning curve, because I mean, I think now in our garden, the swimming pond has become the heart of the garden. It's the beating heart.
Oh,
You've got all
nice.
the dragonflies like scooting across, and you're skimming along, and you've got these wonderful little iridescent beetles. I've got no idea what they're called.
Right.
Scooting around and having a great
And
time.
did you guys construct the swimming pond yourselves?
No,
You've got somebody to do it, because it is a bit of an art, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, yes, that's nice.
And to get the balance right and everything.
Yeah.
And
It takes time. But I think the bit that I've been, from all the work that, I've been following with you guys is I've sort of tried to put that into practice in the concrete garden. So in the sort of concrete garden, I've sort of have created 4 beds.
Right.
And created different environments in each of those beds by putting each of the planting plants bare root into mycorrhizal fungi, and then
Oh, right.
then putting them in one bed, and then another bed we dipped the bare root plants into this special compost that we made, which is
Yeah.
all the microorganisms from our garden.
Yeah.
We planted that, and then in 2 others, the plants just went bare root.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then but the thing was, Annie, I was doing it because do you remember when we were in France? Olivier said you have to form these little bassins, these little
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So I formed these little bowls around the around each of the plants so that all the rainwater could gather.
Yeah.
And what's been happening this year, Annie, is just like rained.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah. So there's little puddles everywhere.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've got swimming plants.
Oh gosh. I mean, that's the difficult thing, isn't it, about climate change? Because it's not just getting hotter and drier, it's getting wetter and windier, you know. I mean,
Exactly.
it's so hard to deal with, isn't it? It's really
Yeah.
hard to plan for.
But but luckily, you know, we only had a couple of fatalities.
Yeah.
And then over the summer, things dried out a bit, and now it's, you know, things are putting their roots down. It's looking good.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that I think we saw an image of it when the images were rolling, the sort of four quadrants of the gravel or concrete garden. You know, it's fascinating. So, and the trees for the future, have you got Henrik's book?
It's here.
That's good. No, but I mean, I was going to say, what's
good. Here we go.
yeah, lovely. So what's your you know, what are your top tips for trees for the future? Are you looking for Henrik and Arit's book, or are you trying different ones yourselves? Or
well, I think it's a fantastic resource that they've prepared. So I've used suggestions from them, but I have to adapt everything to my soil, and that's what I'd love this book to have a little bit more information on, is the actual soil type.
Right, that's interesting.
So I have actually done my own research. So I've been choosing plants that are going to be suited to the sandy soil, as well as the salt, as well as the
wind.
Lack of wind and lack of rain.
Yeah.
So and I've spoken to Bartram's, I've spoken to Deepdale, and tried and brought together a whole load of everyone's ideas as to what would suit my soil. So
yeah, that's interesting. And actually, that was one thing I was going to ask you. How well served are you for nurseries up in your corner of the country?
Yeah, well, we're very, very well served for perennials. So I can't speak highly enough of Howard Nurseries.
Yeah.
So it's Christine Howard who's got her nursery up in Dis. So they sell lots of bare root plants, which is the way to go in the future. It really is. You know, you don't have any of the compost issues. You don't have the, you know, peat free and all that stuff. They do all that as well. But there's a season where you can get your plants, and so they're my number one go-to.
Right.
There are some shrub nurseries around, smaller ones as well. But we don't have quite as many and so sometimes I have to bring in things from further afield, like Palmstead and places, and they're so.
And then of course Deepdale and Bartram's are not that far from you, are they, really?
Yeah, Bartram's closer, Deepdale's a bit further, but really good places as well.
Good. And so maybe have a little chat about some of the specific projects that you've done then. So or you know, client projects and stories, you know, particular ones that have sort of, you know, that you've really enjoyed doing.
Well, yeah, there's I think the one that's on the sort of promotional thing you did on Instagram, that's a garden for lovely family clients of mine. And it's the 3rd time that I've designed their garden. So they started off in London, then they moved out to near Henley, and they're great fun. Number one. So it's a really nice design in that it has so many different facets. It's a family with teenagers, and so there needed to be a teenage zone, a place to play table tennis, a place to have a really wonderful time, just chilling out, and then dining areas, a place to grow their own veg. And then they also had an apothecary garden, which had gone to ruin. It had been designed by somebody before previously, but I was brought in to sort of regenerate it as well.
Wow.
I had to do a bit of research and find out which plants were going to sort of cure all the ailments of the family.
Wow. So they literally do use the plants. It's not just a sort of a showpiece. They literally do.
I believe they do.
Yeah. Wow. Well, they try to. Yeah.
I believe it. I mean, they should do. If they don't, they're watching. but yes, that was the whole thing. But I know that they do it for one thing, because where the apothecary garden is, it's where we've created a terrace there so they could overlook where the sun sets, so they could pop in, just lean over and pop any of the botanical plants that we put that we've grown into
Yeah.
their gin and tonic or whatever
Lovely. Yeah.
they're having.
That's my kind of apothecary. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so that's that lovely family and client garden, and it was up for an award last year as well. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
didn't get it, but it was up one of the SGD awards,
Yeah.
and so I'm very proud of that. And then there's this other garden I'm working on, which is on the other side of the A12 for me, so it's not far. It's a
Mhm.
place called Oxford,
Mhm.
and my clients had been to the Hauser and Worth garden of P2 dolphins in Somerset,
Mhm.
and they really liked that garden, and so they asked me if I could recreate that, and I
Mhm.
said, well, I can recreate that, but I think we need to have a bit more structure in yours, and so we've
Yeah.
added some multi-stem trees and some cornice and a few shrubs, and that's going really well. The garden's gone through a drought, and we had these fissures in the soil, which were just enormous the year of the drought. And
Yeah.
it's gone through the wettest year now. And
Yeah.
there were a few losses of plants along the way, so we've just been doing a session of dividing, or my client's been doing all of this, dividing and getting in a few more plants, because it's going to be open next year for the
Oh, right. Right.
I think she said 19th of September, but it's
Right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's exciting. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really lovely space.
And do you work on your own? Do you have people help you? How do you go about
Yeah.
your design work?
Well, I predominantly work on my own.
Yeah.
Over the years, I've had various freelancers come in and help me.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I have a lovely Millie coming in to work with me at the moment.
Mhm.
And then I've also had a gardener who's been working with me, that had one who's working with me for years and years. It was Laura. And now I've got Alice. So they help out with the garden here, and also with clients' gardens when I need to have help in sort of, positioning plants on site and things like that. So
Yeah.
it is a lot working on your own, I must admit.
And this is the image that's up at the moment is your natural swimming pond, is it? This is
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Wow.
That's
That's huge. It's deep.
yeah. Well, I designed it so, I mean, as you know, I like swimming, so I didn't want anyone to come and to dive into it and hit the bottom. So it had to be deep enough, and this is the concrete. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
see how much rubble we had, and we had to get all that plastic out.
Oh
And
gosh.
it's
Yeah.
loads of rebar in there, so not all of the concrete could be crushed. But
Right. Right.
yeah, so that's it really. It was really it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
it is great that we have you tonight, and we had James last night, because there was this, we sort of finished his discussion talking, and you could talk about it for hours, is that really, to be a good designer, to be a successful good designer, you really do need to garden. You need to know how to garden, and
oh, absolutely.
how plants grow. And that sounds so fundamental, sounds a bit silly, but I mean, I know from my teaching experience that there might be people who've chosen to do garden design, have never touched the soil with their
Mm,
hands, and what you've been doing is absolutely wonderful, isn't it? That you've been setting yourself challenges,
yeah.
and quite big projects at home, which is
Yeah.
great, because you can experiment, you can afford to make mistakes, but then you've got somewhere to show clients, but then you've got much more confidence in
Absolutely.
your work, and in the local in the local climate and the local soil and the local conditions as well. I mean, it's
Yeah, I do know that I'm really lucky.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's been a journey, but it's been brilliant. It's really good.
Yeah, and of course you've won awards as well for your
Mm,
work, which is
yeah.
very exciting.
I know.
You should have them all up around the back of you. So
No, no, no. I'm not an ego. Not an ego.
are they're in the loo, are they?
They're just over there on a shelf underneath. I'm just like, yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
oh,
no, I'm very honoured to have got the awards.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really, I mean, it's really, it's really lovely for the client to get the awards and the recognition. So it's, I mean, it's
Yeah, no, I mean, well, it's lovely for everybody, isn't it? So, we've got a couple of questions. Jenny Nelson, who's in Texas, North
oh,
Texas,
wow.
is saying, she's saying, what's your average rainfall? I think you said 600 mil, didn't you?
Yes, yeah.
But she was saying that she sees many plants in your designs that would work quite well in North Texas. So,
Oh, really? Oh, great. Yeah.
And also saying, I noticed some elegant fences in the images. Do you get to design the hard landscaping elements as well?
Oh, definitely, yes. So there are some, so some of the fences you've seen, yes, I designed that. So it's like different sizes of split wood for one project, and then tongue and groove in other places. So yeah, I do the whole landscaping. I've probably spoken an awful lot about all the planting, but obviously I do.
Well, yeah. I mean, and do you have a contractor that you work with, or do you work with different contractors? How do you go about that?
Well, I'm really lucky that we've got some really lovely guys and who work near me. So I work with different, bring different contractors in that are going to be suited for different jobs. So if there's an emphasis on like soil prep or something like that, there's one team that I definitely just always go to. And if there's somebody I want, it's got to be absolutely pristine, then I'll go for the other companies. So I'm lucky that I've got a nice little network of people.
Oh, that's good. Now we've got a question from Mark saying, do you use Brampton willow?
I do use Brampton willows, of course. They're great.
Now is Brampton willow, is that a willow or is that a company? Tell us
the name. Brampton Willow is the name of a company that was set up by this guy, and then it's been bought out by Champagne Landscape. So he runs Brampton Willows and has his own landscaping company as well.
Oh, right,
very good company. It's just beautiful woven willow.
Yeah, right. And Emma Bannister's asking, have you tried Vitex Agnus Castus by the Sea?
No,
you haven't.
I need to write that one down. Can I write it down later? Because I won't be able to.
Yeah. Well, we'll send you the notes. So that's
that'd be good.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, have you been surprised that what has done? I mean, I think plants always do kind of surprise you, but things that have worked that shouldn't work, or things that should work and haven't worked, they're things that you sort of, things that you that you've
well, I think I suppose I suppose because I'm spending other people's money, I have to be really careful.
Yeah.
So if I'm on the top of a cliff face, then I will go for something that I know is going to be able to withstand those conditions. So it might be Olearia traversii, which is a really good seaside hedge. That one's nice silvery foliage.
Absolutely. Good New Zealand plant, rosemary.
Yes. Or Eleagnus across Vingi. So those sorts of things can work sort of initial barrier right next to the sea. So I have to, I mean, I do experiment in my own garden, but I just make sure that I know what I'm going to do in my
Now, Marcus de la Fleur has a question for you, and he's saying, do you see regional differences in Suffolk where one plant works in one place but not necessarily in another, and things that work throughout? So do you see that around you?
Yes, I do. I mean, we have obviously we've had the Beast in the East, which a little while back, and
for those people who were abroad, that was a couple of winters ago, wasn't it? And it was kind of a freeze out, wasn't it, for about a week?
We had a couple of years ago. We had I suppose it's that one as well. Quite a long time ago, we had this massive one. We had drifts of snow really high, which is unheard of.
Wow.
But a couple of years ago, we did have a period where it sunk down below 10 or 13 degrees, minus 13, minus 10, and that's I just planted up this garden on the cliff top in Dunwich, and some of the plants there did get burnt. They'd only just got in, they hadn't got the roots down, they were just like, help, see, I've got all this stuff. So yes, but regionally, inland sometimes it can be a lot colder. So I noticed that there was a whole load of bay that we planted in one particular garden and it just browned off completely. So it isn't, you know, I'm right by the sea, so we've got a little bit more warmth, I suppose.
Yeah. Now, Duncan Cargill, who, bless him, he is in bed with COVID, he said, so he hasn't got his camera on, so get well soon. His question, though, it's not about COVID. It's like, it's for you. It's what comes first when you're designing? If you haven't, do you have an instinct for form, color, and texture, and how do you work that into the environment? So what's your process when you're designing?
It's the conditions first.
Yeah.
It's the conditions, and then it's also listening to the client as to what feel they want to have in the garden, looking at the whole environment and what's going to work, really. So it's not necessarily about colour. It's not, you know, that I do have lots of people who love purples. There's lots of photographs of purple flowers everywhere. But, you know, it's about it has to be able to withstand the whole of the year as well. And so it has to be good form structure. And for me personally, I love seeing light coming through planting. So it's thinking about where those plants are going to be positioned. So you have that wonderful backlighting. That
And what about the hard landscaping elements, Sue? I mean, do you does that come to you does the layout and the design come to you quite quickly, or because I mean the planting you've obviously proved pretty damn good at that, but I mean, you know, does it sort of, do you start off with the hard landscape and the footprint?
Well, I mean, it's really taking the brief from the client first of all, so you have to find out what needs to go in that garden, and you work out your routes and how the client's going to maneuver themselves around the garden, where the best place to sit in the sun, and all the basic things that we all know about garden design. Then that impacts on the hard landscaping. So the hard landscaping is key, and I'm always thinking, how can we enclose this? Or, you know, everything has to, when I'm writing my little labels on this plan, it's like enclosed with planting.
It has. I mean, your planting looks so immersive and so sumptuous. So, you know, it's obviously, it's kind of, I was going to say style, but now Emma's got another question. What plants that you saw on your trip to South America would you think about using here in the UK? Were there any that you?
Yeah, well, I was very lucky. I actually went to Chile and Argentina earlier this year as well, which is
lovely,
incredible. And so when we were in the Atacama Desert, right up in the north of Chile, it was, you know, completely barren, but just in the just where there once or could have been a river. I looked at this plant and I was thinking, God, that looks really familiar. And it was Atriplex. So I grow Atriplex in these conditions over here. So there are plants that are growing over there that it might not be exactly the same form, but here. And then when I was like climbing onto the top of this mountain, it was really, really, really windy. And so windy that I had my nose right down flat because we thought we were going to be blown off the mountainside. And you're just looking at these tiny little saxifrages that are just surviving on nothing, just bare earth and scree. So, you know, I put some of those in, couldn't I?
Absolutely. And so was Chile as did it live up to expectations? Absolutely. I mean, that's what's next on my list.
No, it's absolutely amazing because it's got so many different landscapes. So you've got the Atacama, you've got the desert, then you've got the Patagonia, you've got the glaciers, you've got the grasslands. It's just stunning. It really is.
And were you on an organized trip, or did you do this? Was it your own sort of?
We worked with this expert, and he sort of said, and we just said we would love to do this, including tango.
Oh right, wow!
But that was when we got to Argentina. So much to the annoyance of my husband, because he hates dancing.
Oh God! If you told me that before, I would have said, right, give us a demo. But I'm not going to put you on the
a bit far away. But it was good. No, it's good fun.
Jenny's also saying, do you have clients demanding only native plants, as we sometimes have in the US? So it's interesting, this native non-native thing. What's the feel in Suffolk for that? Our clients?
I think it's not really. The majority of my clients, you know, they're not. They're interested in having one thick plants that are going to meld in with the rest of the landscape.
Yeah, and something that's going to work. And
yes, so you can get away. So, for example, if somebody says that they want to have a mountain ash, because they're Scottish, because I have quite a lot of Scottish clients sometimes as well for some reason, and they're near the sea, I'd say, well, there is the sorbus that you can use, but it's probably sorbus intermedia cross Browers variety would do better because it can cope with a bit more wind.
Yeah.
So I sort of try and steer them into a certain direction.
Yeah. No, that's it's an interesting thing, isn't it? It's very interesting. I don't think we've got any questions. There was a funny question earlier on, which I will go back to, when you were talking about the Blue Peter garden. Emma said, "Did you get a badge?"
I did.
I couldn't resist.
I got 2 badges. You jealous, Emma?
It was too wicked. I had to sort of throw that one in, really. It's been really, really lovely having you on, Sue. And I know that you were a bit nervous and you were like, oh, but honestly, I was so keen that you would do this because your work is just beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And really inspiring. And I think, again, it's that thing about you being a sort of gardener and designer and trying out, or having the palette in front of you and experimenting at home, and it's just so important. I mean, it's a luxury to have it and have the space, obviously, but so important, isn't it, to do that. So what we've got some comments now. Stephen, who you met in Sardinia, absolutely wonderful gardens and designs. Yes, and Wendy, who's in South Carolina, lovely presentation. I could see myself in any of those gardens. Yes, Wendy, but you come over, Wendy, and you can go and sit in them. And Jenny saying beautiful immersive work. Thank you for sharing. So and Duncan, thanks, Sue. Great to hear your story and talk about your work. Brilliant. So yeah. No, I hope you've got a nice big glass of wine waiting for you.
It's gin and tonic.
Is it gin and tonic? Oh, you're a woman after my own heart. Well done.
Thank you. It's been a real privilege.
Oh no, thank you, Sue. It's Noel, your thing's off. Your mic.
Thank you, Sue. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And
it was lovely. It was lovely.
And nice to have a designer who's very, very regionally focused and exploring the problems and the challenges of that location. Yes.
And Emma's saying, please think of joining the Mediterranean Garden Society if you need a Christmas present idea. Oh, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you about that.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Emma.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, there's lots of thank yous coming. We'll send you the notes because I think it's really lovely to have people's notes. Yeah, well, enjoy that gin and tonic. And I hope the winter isn't dries up a little bit. It's pouring down here. I don't know what it's like with you, but
it's so yeah.
And you can have a nice relaxing swim in the morning because you don't have to do a talk.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right, Sue. Well, listen,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And thanks everybody for tuning in, and see you soon, hopefully.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.